Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast.
What's valuable is these dudes on a daily basis, not once in a while, on a daily basis. So who remembers the George Zimmerman trial? Remember that? So their lead legal counsel is Don West. Don was the lead counsel for George Zimmerman. So that's just one guy. Yeah. They got another dude, Sean Vincent. Sean's a jurist extraordinaire. His whole job is to be like, that guy we need, that one we don't, this one I need, make snap decisions to fill a jury. Didn't go to law school, went to school for broadcast or something, didn't he? But he understands literature. I think he went to school for literature and English. But he can pick a jury to help win a case. And then the other thing that these guys do is they've got a bunch of guys. Gary, who you didn't met, was one of the lead homicide guys in Oklahoma City when the building got blown up. Remember that? Right? Like one of the worst freaking things in U.S. history. You were around the police department then in Oklahoma City. So these guys had to filter through all of the data and evidence from this horrific crime in their community. And even though that's kind of a big city, it's in the middle of Oklahoma, it's like a big small city if you've ever been there. I started to tell you on the range, or maybe some point during the beginning of the weekend here, like him in particular, you got a background, you were a lifelong law enforcement officer. Your kid's a copper still there, right?
Brother.
Brother. Whose kid? I know Gary's kid is, but no, there's somebody else whose kid is. The Admiral.
Oh, yeah.
The Admiral's kid's a copper on the force there. He worked for the police academy. You were a SWAT cop there?
Gang cop.
Oh, just keep adding it up. Just can't let people go out and have fun with their buddies. Jerk. Spent a lot of years working to catch sex crimes, people involved in sex crimes. Horrific stuff. Up to and including police officers that were literally raping people as they were cuffing them. He's got a horrible story that maybe he'll tell you on the side about one of his own. How many people that do rape?
14 that we found.
14 women that do rape. Horrible. Not what we're going to talk about this evening. Why I'm telling you all that is he's got a lifetime of experience in these concepts we've been talking about of self-defense. It doesn't do you any good to do all of the mechanical stuff to protect yourself and end up locked up getting butt some dude in prison. Yeah? Some of you guys would be frickin' arm candy for some of these guys. Yoni's over here like this. Stand up, please, and just look at them with the same face. Just look at them with the same face. Turn around. This dude would be getting butt raped on the daily if he screwed up. You would. You'd be all over some guys, wouldn't he?
I learned the squeezes.
He's flexible. He's sweet. He's cuddly. He smells nice usually. So we'll let Rob talk for just a couple of minutes on what he does, and then we'll just throw some questions on. That sound good? Okay, thank you.
First off, thank you guys so much for letting me come out and hang out and train with you guys. I work in this industry, and I was telling Jacob I haven't shot more than a full magazine at any one time since April of last year. Work is busy. I love shooting. I love getting to hang out with guys that train, guys that have a skill set, guys that actually give a crap about the world they live in and making sure they help make it a better place, safer place. And you guys step up and do things a lot of cops I know won't do. They wouldn't come out and spend this kind of money and put themselves through this kind of training. They think they already know it. You can talk to Z and some of these other guys that have got this extensive military training. Same thing with guys in the military. There's lots of guys out there that, yes, they are serving their country, they're doing their thing, but there's a really small, limited number of people in the world that really are apex predators. And there's good ones and there's bad ones. And thank God we got the good ones. So seriously, for Chuck and Paul and Z, you guys need to find a little space and time to just go up and thank them aside from the fact that they're out here sharing their time and knowledge with us. So it's a gift. It's a great gift. Got any other guys in here? Any EMT guys? Any fire guys? Any cops? Thank you guys. Thank you guys for what you do. Absolutely. I spent about 13 years for the largest police agency in Oklahoma as their subject matter expert on use of force. I used to think I was a tough guy. I got to go fight all over the world, but in retrospect, if I'm honest and I look back, I've had my ass kicked on multiple continents. So that's about the extent of that. I've trained stuff since I was 7 years old. I've had 7 knee surgeries. I've been beat up. I've had, 15 AC separations in my shoulders. I kept together with baling wire and duct tape for the most part now. But I got really fortunate. 2 of my best friends in the world, Mike Darter and Stan Campbell, 2 of the 3 owners of CCW Safe, both moved on to other careers. Mike was a gang cop on our department and had gone out deer hunting and was in a tree stand, and it's before legal light, but he hears something crashing through the woods behind him and he's thinking, sounds like a big buck. So he's sitting with his back up against a tree and he just kind of cuts his eyes to look, and an owl came down and put a talon through his left eye. So Mike's got one eye now. We tease him about it relentlessly, but he's one of those guys that something was taken from him and God gave him other gifts. It's amazing. You can pull up JM Darter photography and he guides wildlife photography things all over the world. But he was one of the founders of CCW Safe. When he was a young guy, he was involved in a fatal shooting, and criminally he came out just fine. But what happened was the family a couple of years later gets wrangled in by some sleazebag attorney that is telling them you can make millions of dollars. So they sue him civilly and goes to federal court. It takes a long time to go through that proceeding, but he wins. Now when he winds up leaving the police department, he starts thinking about that and was like, I had all this great legal help as an officer because he was a member of the FOP, so he had attorneys and he had investigators and experts and everything was taken care of, chaplain services. But now he was leaving that service and he started thinking, crap, what if I ever had to do this in the civilian realm and defend my family, my kids? And he got together with Stan Campbell and the 2 of them brainstormed and thought, nobody else is doing anything like this. And we know the system that's in place because the FOP has that model already there. So basically, they created CCW Safe with this vision to give civilians that same kind of stuff, same kind of defense. So all legal fees in a criminal case and even in a civil case, they pay all the attorney fees, expert witness fees, jury consultant fees, crime scene reconstruction fees, shooting reconstruction fees. And if you guys don't understand what cases like that run, I've done expert witness stuff for a long time now. I was through voir dire certified as an expert in federal court. I charge $800 an hour. Or you can join CCW Safe for $209 a year. And then you get me for your $209. Don West is the guy that's going to call you if you're in an incident. He, like Mickey was saying, he handled the Trayvon Martin case. I think he's the best self-defense attorney in the United States. Something that happens if one of our members is involved in a shooting is it goes to the emergency number, and typically within 2 minutes, Don West is on the phone calling that member personally. And he'll check, is this an emergency? When Don is notified, Gary and I are notified, all three of our owners are notified, and Sean Vincent is notified, all of us, immediately. What happens then is we basically stand by and wait on Don, but as soon as that message comes through, Gary and I will immediately respond with standing by. I don't care if you call it 2 o'clock in the morning, we're standing by. We've been on call for decades. We know how to do that. If your incident involved you having to defend yourself and shooting somebody and it is serious bodily injury or death, we're coming to you. So part of that first notification is we'll jump on, we'll verify that you're a member, because we had one guy that desperately wanted us to be his service, but unfortunately he'd signed up for USCCA and he'd made a mistake on who he called for help. So we're wishing him well with what he chose. Don's doing his thing. Gary and I are ensuring that that guy is a member with us. They're in good standing, they're paid up, and that kind of thing. And then I get on and I start checking out flights and seeing if we got to roll out, what's the fastest, most expedient way to get there. We work in concert with Don, but we also have, between Gary and I, we have about 70 to 75 years of experience. We know how to communicate with other investigators, with other people in the legal system. So that's another piece to that puzzle, is we're rolling out to communicate with law enforcement on the other end of your case. If you need chaplain services or anything like that, if you have an incident that somebody comes into your home and they try harming you, or you're in fear for your life and you drop them there in your doorway, inside your home doing your thing, it's a biohazard. You don't want to be the one to clean up that mess. We cover that. It's just part of the service. It's not an additional fee or anything else like that. We get calls, like I was saying earlier, at least weekly. We had one Saturday, we had one Sunday, and then another one Wednesday. When I was driving over here, we had another call. Nothing that we had to roll out on, so fortunately I get to stay and play and hang out with you guys. We are the only business in the industry that has ever had a member that was charged with first-degree murder. His name's Stephen Maddox. Stephen was assaulted, and the guy kept following him. He was attacked 3 different times. Stephen's a little skinny guy. He's like 5'9", 165 pounds. His attacker was like 6'4" and almost 300 pounds. And the last assault, the guy was on top of him, and Stephen managed to get his pistol out, and he unloaded on the guy and he killed him. Unfortunately, this happened in North Carolina, in a small little town that hadn't had a homicide in like 32 years. And they didn't know what to do. So, well, he shot somebody and he killed somebody. We got to put him in jail. And they did. It was a case that wound up costing us a little bit over $400,000, but Stephen was exonerated and acquitted and doesn't have to worry about that. But it took more than 2 years for him to come to trial. And the things that happened during those times are just things that nobody ever thinks about. So suddenly you've got the anxiety of all this crap. You have no idea what's going to go out. We went and posted his bond and got him out, but they forced him to live on an ankle monitor. He couldn't go anywhere. He lost his job. Holy crap, what are you going to do now? Winds up the stress of everything. He winds up losing his wife and kids. It's a big deal. So I heard Matt Little last year at another training conference make a statement to every group he trained, and he talked about something I need you to think about, is how you're going to deal with an incident like this. Start working that out in your mind and understand how you're going to react to this before you're ever in that position. Colonel Grossman is retired. He was an author. He did studies on military shootings, and what we learned is over time, you've gone from the Civil War, where you'd have 25% of guys that were combatants that would actually attempt to shoot somebody. Everybody else was just like supporting those 25%. So not really good at it. And from then to Vietnam, we became wildly successful at training men to kill people. We're really good at it. But we didn't do anything to teach people how to live with it. So the concentric ripples that happen in an incident like that are so far-reaching, and it's something that Gary and I have done for a long time. Gary's, like Mickey said, he's a retired homicide investigator. Gary took a UN contract and trained law enforcement from all over the world to investigate war crimes in Serbia and Kosovo. He was also the chief investigator for the district attorney for Oklahoma County. So the things that we've done and investigated, I've worked thousands of shootings. The first time I ever ventured out beyond law enforcement was a doctor that was involved in a shooting, and it was very clearly self-defense. But there was some small town politics bullcrap that played into it, and they wound up charging him with shooting with intent to kill. And it took, again, 2 years to get to trial. It was a 2-week-long trial, and the jury was out for about 45 minutes, and they acquitted him. It was completely bogus that they charged this man. But they ruined his life. And he's still a friend of mine, and I asked him after the whole thing was over and done with, Doc, I don't know if this is something you'd be willing to share, but for my own personal gee whiz file, what did your defense cost? And it was $627,000. And I called Mike and Stan that day, and that was in 2015. I called them that day and joined. It's just like, if something happens to me away from work, if I'm up with my family and, taking my family to the lake and something happens and I got to defend my family, and my police department wasn't going to come out and cover me. It was something I was going to have to do. And I realized right then, I don't have the money to do that. I would lose everything I've ever worked my entire life for. So, something my partner Gary tells everybody, I'm a little more prone to bash another carrier, another service provider, because I don't appreciate people that don't do what they're supposed to be doing. And Gary corrects me all the time and says, everybody in this industry does exactly what they tell you they're going to do. But it's up to you to read the fine print, because that's what they're going to do. So in the Stephen Maddox case, if he'd have known ahead of time that his defense was going to cost him $400,000, if we'd have just showed up and laid that money in his lap, he had no earthly idea who to call next. He didn't know anybody that was an attorney. He didn't know any experts. He didn't know investigators or anything else. Or you have companies out there that are reimbursement programs where you pay all of your legal fees, and once it's all resolved and you have a final tally, they'll give you a check and reimburse you everything out of pocket. I don't have $627,000. If a shooting results in a serious bodily injury, your bottom dollar, your starting point is about $300,000. It's not cheap. It's really expensive to do this the right way. And then there's others that say, yes, we'll cover you, we've got your back, we'll pay everything up front, but they have something that's called a recoupment clause. And what that means is, in the event that we pay all this money, but you're found guilty or you take a plea agreement or anything else, that's a loss for them, and you have to pay them back the money that you spent. And it's in their fine print. So do your homework and investigate and see who's who, and like Gary says, Everybody in this business does what they tell you they're going to do. I'm just really proud to work with a group of guys that are really committed to helping honest people out of stuff. So, does anybody got any questions?
Yeah. So I know it's not easy to put a pin in something and say this is typical, but without sharing any details, for those of us that are more, average everyday carriers, what do you see the most? What pops up that you're like, this is the type of thing you guys need to understand, or are they all just so different?
They are all different, but that's a great question. Something I need you guys to understand, and I want this to be your thought. When you're going down the road and all of a sudden somebody cuts you off, or all of a sudden it's kind of turning into a road rage thing, or for lack of a better term, a dick measuring contest. I don't care how angry you are in your vehicle. I want you to think it's Z in the other car.
Hey.
Be careful what you get yourself into, because sometimes you can't get yourself out. Sometimes you can't get yourself out of something that you open a door to. So we do a lot of training on de-escalation, on situational awareness. We do a lot of communication and education with our members on those kinds of things. It's the same thing Mickey was talking about on the line today. Sometimes I can kind of be, maybe I'll just scare him away. And that's a felony crime. There's some states where I got a gun, and that's a crime, and you're going to jail for it. Brandishing stuff is probably our most frequent stuff. We cover them. It doesn't cost us a great deal of money, but something that happens in those cases when people have kind of let their emotions get the best of them, and I'm telling you, I preach this all the time. When you decide to carry a gun all the time, you forfeit the right to be emotional. I need you to think incredibly hyper-logically.
Would you say that a lot of the issues you run into then are perhaps poor decisions?
Yeah, we do, and that's where I was leading to this before Mickey opened his mouth again. Part of what I do also is post-incident. When Don West gets with me, he'll call me and say, reach out and call Jeff. And I'm going to have a list of questions for you. It's basically going to be a short interview, and then it's going to be remediation. It does me no good to cover you and then just leave you hanging out to dry if there's something I know that we can address with you and make corrections with. And we've had guys that absolutely are adamant and they don't see anything they've done wrong, and some of those guys have actually been fired as members. I'm fortunate enough to work with guys that are smart enough that go, this guy is a loose cannon and he's an idiot, and he's looking for a reason to go get in a fight because he thinks he's covered. But we're not murder insurance. We're there to fill the gap if something catastrophic in your world happens and you have to defend yourself. And like Stephen Maddox's case, I mean, I don't fault law enforcement where he was from, but they did the best they could with what they had. They just didn't know everything that was going on, and they just felt obligated, like they have to go file charges on this guy. There's sometimes that a shooting is remarkably justifiable. It happens more frequently than you know. You know, Mickey's talking about Google this, Google that. Start Googling proper self-defense cases. There's a lot of bad guys that get stopped by really good people in this country, thankfully. And I don't know any cops that I ever worked around that or trained with anywhere else that were down on somebody exercising their constitutional rights and going, this guy's got these rights to defend himself. That's the way this country was founded. So it's a great question, though. Yes?
Are you able to offer your services in New York State?
Only for law enforcement. Yeah, we can't cover Washington State, we can't cover New Jersey, and New York is only law enforcement. That's the political climate there that's done that to us.
More of a statement than a question. It's like we all carry insurance, homeowners, car. I've never had a wreck in 35 years
Yes.
since I've been driving.
Yes.
And now that I actually carry, and I've been to a couple S12s now, and I'm more serious about my carry and my responsibility as a firearm, working with them, concealing them, whatever. And it's so funny you're here because now that that's happened, it's like, it makes sense. You hope you pay for it, but hope you never have to use it. If I spend insurance on my house, my car, my boat, everything for the rest until I die and never use it, it's still worth it.
Absolutely.
It's more of a statement. It's
Yeah,
not like a question, but
absolutely.
it's just kind of
Yeah, he's comparing.
Other people may think that too, but
He's comparing this to something like we all, I'm required to carry insurance on my vehicle to drive on the roads. If I've got a note on my house, I'm required to carry insurance on my home. And there's guys, I don't know, I've been a homeowner for 40 years. And I've filed one homeowner's claim ever. I paid them a lot of money for the just in case. And I promise it's a whole lot more than $209 for a year.
Yeah. You mentioned the idea murder insurance, right? So I thought about this a while back, and then I thought, well, maybe the jury would look at it kind of in a negative light if somebody did get, can still carry insurance for themselves because of, that very fact that you said. And, I know this is kind of maybe going against what might be financially normal for you, but how do you feel that the jury actually looks at somebody who has this type of insurance? Do they look at it as like, oh yeah, this guy got this because he was going out looking for problems?
Let us make that explanation.
license to see it.
Yeah, let us make that explanation. Because it is easier to explain away from our standpoint in a manner that they'll be able to digest. There is so much stuff that goes on in that realm. I'd be far more concerned with you doing a stupid modification on your gun, something like that, where all of a sudden you've got the little thing on the front of your muzzle that now reads, smile when you see the flash. There's all kinds of stupid crap you can put on a gun. Or doing something just outrageous. You've gone from a factory 7-pound trigger and now all of a sudden it's 1. Because I promise a DA is going to spin that whichever way he's got to do it if he's trying to get a win. Because unfortunately, instead of trying to get to the truth, we've got a lot of people in here in the legal realm now that are responding to things politically motivated and filing charges on people that shouldn't be filed on. We've got 5 officers that we're investigating in Oklahoma, or that are charged in Oklahoma City, that only did what they were trained to do. I mean, exactly what they were trained to do. And because of emotional political fallout, they filed charges on these kids. And it's something you guys should also know. Gary and I, the third partner in our company is Kyle Sweet. Kyle owns his own law firm, and he's got a group of guys that specialize in self-defense things. Those guys are part of the National FOP and the Police Benevolent Association and those things that are already in place that provide legal counsel for officers that are involved in significant uses of force or officer-involved shootings. As part of that team, Gary and I also come in and help investigate those shootings. So as far as experience, as far as what goes on, there's nobody else in the industry that can match the experience that comes in, because Gary and I have investigated, well, since I got there. Yep. Gotcha. Since I came on with CCW Safe, I've been a part of 41 officer-involved shooting investigations. So we're very active, and I've been there for about 19 months.
49? Say 49?
41, yeah.
I guess, better put, does that become an issue?
It never
in
has.
Some of these cases?
It never has yet.
So I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Sorry, just to be clear, so the coverage is for incidents that in your defense prior to charges being filed, is it both criminal and civil? So at the moment of an incident, your firm offers coverage to defend me, help the process along, even before charges are filed.
Yes.
It's not insurance, so they're allowed to do that.
And most everybody else is actually an insurance policy. Something you need to be mindful of is like if you had a homeowner's claim and all of a sudden they go, we'll just give you this much. And then on the backside of that, what do they also do? They raise your premium. They bump your deductibles. They do all that kind of stuff. We're self-insured. We have our own 2A insurance company that is fully funded, overfunded. We're the ones that are insured, not you. You get all these different little membership benefits for being a member. Part of that benefit is your legal defense.
Does that include both criminal and civil? If there's a civil suit that would come subsequent to
Yes.
criminal?
And if you're convicted, it also includes appeals. And if we get beyond that, it'll include an expungement.
And does it also cover non-firearm use but other concealed weapons use?
Yes. Any weapon of opportunity, any legal weapon of opportunity.
What happens if you're found guilty? What happens if you're found guilty?
We haven't ever had that, but it's paid for. There's no recoupment. There's nothing else. It's not like we're going to go, we're not doing anything else.
So what advice do you have for the restricted states that have, other than move, any advice for restrictive states? Anything you could?
Yeah.
Do right.
Yeah. Don't get caught up in that wheel.
Have a drone flying over you with cameras.
I asked this
I don't think that would
I
help.
remember, but
It was a joke.
will it cover you in those states if you're not from those states, but it happens in those states?
We can't cover those states.
You have to be wherever you're at and lawfully armed, or be lawful in that state. You wouldn't be armed in New
No,
York.
but again, the weapons of opportunity, is it just having self-defense? No.
No.
Their state constitution don't allow it.
They started fining us, and we just pulled out. One of those times it was okay to pull out.
All right, let's do this. You could ask him questions all night, tomorrow, the next night, do that. Your question, that kind of stuff comes up all the time that he does this for a living, I pretend to. But those kinds of like what ifs, that's like, I'm gonna eat this because I'm gonna get a heart attack or not get a heart attack anyway. Like, you still gotta like make good choices, right? You don't know what a jury's gonna do. So rather than like, I'm not gonna do this because the jury might think I got insurance to protect myself from murder somebody, do right shit so that when you're justified, or that you're justified by your actions, right?
Correct.
Having car insurance.
Well, the question was, has that historically been an issue?
No.
Not just like, hey, this is my fear. Has this been an issue in the past?
You know who you should
That
ask?
was a clear answer.
People in your community who would be your juror. Hey, what would you think if somebody was involved in what appears to be a self-defense case and they looked justified but you found out they had insurance? How would that weigh on you as a juror? And see what they say, because that's who you're judged by, a jury of the people where you live. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, to cut you off, but some of these people are tired, Rob.
That's not my fault.
I would definitely ask your questions of him. We've got a discount code that I think saves 10% with them. I did the research. I spent 3 months, I called every company that's out there a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. They had just opened. I talked to every one of them and did the same questions. What about this? What about this? What about this? And it's funny, guys are idiots with things like tools, guns, cars, and gun insurance. The one video Drew and I did that gets more hate mail sent to us is the ones about this. This fucking moron, this company's way better. You're literally arguing about insurance. Like you're dick measuring about your choice in Travelers versus State Farm. Like, that's literally what these people are. It's not even like the Bengals versus, the Bears or something. They're arguing over insurance coverage because our self-worth is rooted in our ability to make good decisions. If I tell you your car's stupid, that means you're stupid because you can't make good choices, right? So get whatever you want, but if you sit down logically, take the numbers out of the equation, and this isn't a sales pitch for them, it doesn't look at it, this versus that, and then you look at the people, those other companies, man, most of them are just marketing agencies that offer a product. Like the doTERRA shit that my wife and her friends sell is essential oils that are sold by a marketing company. They could sell sex toys, they could sell Tupperware, it's all the same shit, it's a marketing company, it's not a joke. It's true. Those companies just market crap.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.